Now, youth have been encouraged to join the fight for climate action, as it is seen as a means to spur the needed conversation towards reversing or at least reducing the effects of climate change in our world today. To effect community change, the public must first be educated about the damage caused by harmful daily activities leading to global warming. And to talk about this, we're being joined live by Bettina Nwelih. Bettina, glad to have you join me.
So much for having me, Adebola. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon from here. Now, tell me about what are some of the policies or strategies being deliberated upon in ensuring that youth are included in the fight for climate justice, like they say.
All right, so earlier today, there was a youth gathering at the Nigerian pavilion of the COP28 here in Dubai. And one of the major things that were discussed was the fact that it's not all about funding. Yes, funding is important, but there are also other parameters that would engage the youth to make sure that they are a part of this climate change. Now, number one thing they mentioned was to ensure the participation. Now, most of the time when you hear about climate change activities in the country, you hear about it from the government perspective most of the time. But today they were advocating for the fact that, we have to engage the youth and ensure that they are well represented in this fight against climate change. They also mentioned inclusion. They mentioned protecting the rights of those who have been most vulnerable to the effects of climate change in the country, regardless of those people who have undergone coastal erosion and had to relocate. They also have rights, and these are people that need to also function in the scheme of things. Now, they also spoke about the solution to all of these, promoting equity, making sure that, yes, they are youth, but they can level up with the government and make a headway when it comes to climate activities in the country.
Now, aside policies regarding youth and how they can be inculcated in the fight against climate change, what other policies or agreements are being agreed upon right there where you are at the COP28?
Okay, so there was an interesting one that actually crossed my path, and they called it the Global Cooling Pledge. Now, this was commissioned by the Director General of the Energy Commission of Nigeria. I'm talking about Dr. Mustafa Abdullahi. He gave his assurance during an address at a high-level meeting attended by the world leaders and, of course, critical stakeholders on climate change. Now, this Global Cooling Pledge is an initiative of the United Nations developed to see a reduction in carbon emissions and bring minimum energy performance to 1.5 degrees Celsius across the globe. Somehow this is going to affect our cooling conditions, ACs and the likes of it, but I'm really looking forward to see how they affect generally climate change in Nigeria and also affect the youth and other companies that have to do with cooling in the country.
Now, there's been talks for developing countries to move away from carbon emissions, from fossil fuel to cleaner energy. And we understand recently a loss and damage fund of about $500 billion was approved for disbursements to these developing countries to help them transition to cleaner energy. But then, what other conversations behind the scenes do you know of that we here are unaware of?
Earlier today, there was a conversation on how to convert carbon emissions and get money from it. The panel that sat during this conversation talked about how, yes, funding is important, but we also need to learn how to cash in on this. I will be doing a package on that by tomorrow, and I'm sure it's something that will be very interesting, and you all should look forward to it.
Well, thank you so much for that coverage. Bettina Nwelih, our correspondent, right there reporting for us developments right there at COP28 in Dubai.